let's see what worked for our community 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 500 years ago, and let's see what hasn't worked for our community 100 years ago or 50 years ago, and where things have perhaps gone wrong. I myself will be handling the first part of the presentation. In this part, we will be looking at the history of these institutions. The second part will be looking forward, and I think that's a much more exciting part, and Amrita Gaur Benji will be handling that part of the presentation, looking at the current state of the Panth very briefly, but then being more progressive. And instead of wallowing in criticisms of what the community is like now, which is what a lot of us end up doing, Punjab's in this state, the Panth is in this state, instead of being negative, let us now be positive and be proactive. So to begin with, as with all things, let us begin with an ardas to Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, to Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, to the Guru. It is Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji who created Akal, Takht, Sahib. And so when we are talking about issues of Sikh governance, our mindset needs to be, how can we live the life of sovereign individuals as Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji envisioned? This mural you see here, which is not historically accurate, of course, and no paintings of the Gurus are, but this painting is important because it shows by Bidhi Chand bringing the horses to Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, and it's a fresco that was actually painted at the historical Akal Takht Sahib building that was destroyed in June 1984. Bhai Das Ji, how does he understand his Guru? He calls Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Dal Panjan, Gur Surma, Vada Jodha. He's a great warrior, he destroys army, but what is the most important quality of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji? Well, Bhai Das Ji says the most important quality of all of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji is that he is Boho Paropkari. He is benevolent, he is loving, and he takes care of us. And that's a very important thing to keep in mind. We fall into a very Western paradigm often, where we think that being a warrior or being fierce or being courageous means that you are at heart violent or hateful. But in fact, Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji's warrior ethic, his great strength and capacity as a leader, flow not from a place of intolerance, hate, or anger, but flow from a deep and unabiding connection to Vaheguru Sahib Ji and love for all humanity. So that's the type of mentality we need to have going forward. Let us not be dividers, let us be uniters. Let us act in the spirit of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji. Let us act in the spirit of the Gurus who, even when fighting for their rights or fighting for the rights of others, were still focused on loving all individuals and trying to make the world a better place. So let us begin by looking at Akal Takht Sahib. Akal Takht has been on our minds a lot lately, especially with what's been going on in Punjab over the recent past months, but we can even say years, decades, and it's hard to really go back to see when things started to really fall apart, but maybe we can even go back to the late 1700s when Maharaja Ranjit Singh shifted the power of the Panth from Akal Takht Sahib to Lahore and crowned himself the king of Punjab. So since that time, Akal Takht Sahib has definitely suffered in terms of what its role should be. And we should be careful. When I say it suffered, the Takht itself can never be destroyed. The Akal Takht itself can never not be free, never not be sovereign, because it's more than a building of bricks. If it was just bricks, then it being destroyed 7 times throughout Sikh history would have ruined the institution. But it is in fact an eternal throne. That's why Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji gave that title to it. And we'll look at whose throne this is, where this throne comes from. So in Sikhi, be it political issues, be it music and creativity, be it being a warrior, when it comes to ideas of a spiritual connection, of seva, of simran. Every single aspect of Sikhi begins very firmly with Guru Nanak Sahib Ji. It is Guru Nanak who is the source of all of Sikh theology, all of Sikh philosophy. And in fact, it is Guru Nanak Sahib Ji who was first placed on that throne, not the physical throne, but the mystical throne of Vaheguru. And who placed Guru Nanak Sahib Ji on that throne? Well, Bani tells us that it was in fact Vaheguru. Vaheguru Sahib Ji placed Guru Nanak on that throne. Here we have a Shabad of Panth, and I won't, my pronunciation of Bani is terrible enough as it is, but I won't try to pronounce Panth Bani and ruin his beautiful words. But what I wanted to talk about here is the idea that Nandad and Gurdas Ji are tapping into is that it is in fact Guru Nanak Sahib Ji who is the true emperor. It is in fact Guru Sahib Ji who created the throne. And later on in the presentation, we'll see how these ideas have come up in Guru Granth Sahib Ji as well, especially in the Paktan de Seville and Varam Kali of Bhai Satta and Bhai Balwant. So when Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji created the physical Akal Takht, and this is an artist's imagining of what perhaps the first version of the Akal Takht looked like, when Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji created that first Akal Takht, he was not making anything new. He was in fact making real what Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji what Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had first developed. What Vaheguru Sahib Ji had blessed to Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji was then making it a physical reality. And we see that idea come up a lot actually in Sikh history. Things that were mystical in the time of Guru Nanak are then made very real and concrete by later Gurus. And the reason for this, in my opinion, is that the Gurus very specifically wanted us to not forget or not be confused as to what was going on. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji took that mystical Amrit that is talked about in Bani and made it into a very physical Khande ki bowl. Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji took the Kirpan that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji blessed to by Lena, as is revealed in Bhai Sultan Baban's Vad, and he gave us a real physical Kirpan. So all the things that are essential in Sikh philosophy, or the Sikh worldview, we can say, were actually from Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, and really from before Guru Nanak, from Akal Purkh Vaheguru. And that's a very important distinction. When Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji made this throne, he didn't call it Guru Hargobind's throne, Guru Hargobind's Takht. He didn't call it the Guru's Takht. In fact, he didn't even call it Guru Nanak's Takht, he called it Akal Takht. And he could have used any word for Vaheguru. He could have used Hari, he could have used Ram, he could have used Kartar, he could have used Sat. There are many different words that Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji could have used in that instance. And yet, he chose a very powerful word which brings to mind that quality of Vaheguru which is eternal, undying, and unbreakable. That's something that is Akal, is outside of the realm of death and destruction. And so it doesn't matter how many times the physical Akal Takht gets destroyed, it can never really be destroyed because it is the throne not of any one individual, but it is actually the throne of Vaheguru, who is indestructible, unborn, and ever living. Moreover, who sits on this throne is not any one political party, any one jatha, any one individual. The only institution that can sit on the throne of Akal is in fact the Guru. And so the Akal Takht of Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji was a multifaceted institution. And for us right now, this might be a little bit weird to think about because, hey, does this match up with our ideas of how governments are run today? Well, we are looking at 2 or 3 very narrow and modern interpretations of how states should be run. the American model or the Westminster model or maybe the French model. And what we fail to realize is that, years before the American Revolution, years before Britain transitioned from a absolute monarchy into a legislative constitutional monarchy, years before even France had their revolution, the Gurus had created a system of governance. And the Akal Takht really was the center, the heart, or we could say the concentration or the Takht of the Guru's socio-political and judicial power. This is where Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji sat and ruled as a fully independent sovereign. And what does fully independent mean? It means not answerable to any being of this earth. The only being that the Guru can ever answer to is in fact Vaheguru, which they are a part and parcel of, just a manifestation of Vaheguru in a sense. So Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji's Takht is all of these things for us, and has been historically. It is where we go for judicial decisions. It is where we look for political leadership, and it was also historically where military decisions were made for a sovereign Sikh nation. In fact, the institution of Akal Takht is very special and much more unique than we realize. Sometimes people think of the Akal Takht as being just another Gurdwara, but it's not in fact. Here we see an image of the original bricks that were used to create the original Tara that Akal Takht was based on. Now, we've all heard the story of how Harmandir Sahib was built. Harmandir Sahib, the foundation stone was laid by the great Saimian, a Muslim Sufi. Guru Arjan Sahib Ji brought him to create an inclusive space for all of humanity. And Harmandir Sahib, in its architecture, in its layout, was a building designed to be inclusive and open to all. And then yet right across from it, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji does something very different. Whereas at Harmandir Sahib, everyone was able to do seva there. Muslims, Hindus, others came and helped build this Gurdwara, which was supposed to be a Gurdwara not just for the Sikh Panth, but for the whole world. A really incredible idea. With a Guru that was not just a Guru of the Sikhs, but Guru for the whole world, Guru Granth Sahib Ji. On the other hand, we have Akal Takht Sahib, whereas the foundation stone of Harmandir Sahib was laid by a non-Sikh, here the foundation stone of Akal Takht was actually laid by Guru Hargobind himself. Whereas at Harmandir Sahib, the Gurdwara was built by all members of the community, Sikh and non-Sikh alike. Akal Takht Sahib was built only by the hands of Baigar Das and Baba Buddha, the two most exemplary Sikhs alive at the time. So we have what we could say is a very exclusive institution. Why would the Guru Sahib create such an exclusive institution? Why, in fact, would they go through such care that even the bricks were made by hand, baked out of clay, that Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji himself dug up and made those bricks one by one? Why would Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji have gone through this effort? What is the symbolic reason behind it? Well, the symbology to me is very clear. Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji is saying, Harmandir Sahib is this open place for everybody. But we are also a nation. We are also a Panth. We are also a Qawm. And the Akal Takht Sahib is our institution. And just like I can't walk into the Pentagon, or I can't walk into the White House, I cannot walk into the Akal Takht unless I have made a firm commitment to my Guru. Because this is where we actually get down to the difficult work of governing, of making decisions, of figuring out how this Panth should be run. This is not just a normal Gurdwara. Akal Takht Sahib is a very unique and important institution in Sikh history and philosophy. Very quick point, Akal Takht is also where Hukamname were issued from. So it was where Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji issued letters to the Sangats, spread wide. And most likely the earlier Gurus also issued Hukamname, but historically what we find is that Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji is the first Guru that we have evidence of that he issued Hukamname. which were commands from the Guru. Now the Takht is a physical building, yes, and Akal Takht is important, but it's also very important to realize that the Akal Takht is not just that one building, but is in fact tied to the Guru. So that when Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji went to Kiratpur, he created a new Takht, and you can see that Gurudwara there. It's called Takht Kot Sahib, and that is where Guru Hargobind, Guru Har Rai, and Guru Harkrishan Sahib Ji would rule from, and where they would issue hukams from, and where in fact Guru Har Rai and Guru Harkrishan Sahib Ji were made Guru. That is where the Guru Gaddi ceremony took place. Similarly, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji built Chak Nanaki, which later became Anandpur Sahib, he built a Takht there as well called Akal Bunga Sahib. And it was there that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji ruled from. And it was there that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's cease was brought for cremation, and where Guru Gobind Singh Ji issued his first hukam after this Antam Sanskar of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji's cease. So we see that the Takht is not just a physical building, but the Takht is tied to the office or the powers of the Guru. And so in the post-Guru Gobind Singh Ji period, when Baba Banda Singh Bahadur was the leader of the Khalsa army, and the Khalsa Panth freed all of southern Punjab, because in those days Punjab was split up into two states, southern Punjab with a government capital at Sirhind, and northern Punjab with a government capital of Lahore. And Baba Banda Singh Bahadur managed to free southern Punjab from Mughal rule, and so because he wasn't able to go into Majha, he in fact created a capital at a town that he called Mukhlaspur, and he created a fort there called Logar Sahib, and it was there that the Takht of the Panth resided. So the Takht does not even need to exist at Akal Takht Sahib, though that is where historically it's been, because the Takht is tied to the office of the Guru. And so today, in the post-Banda Singh Bahadur period going onwards, the decision very consciously was, let's bring the Takht back to that Akal Takht of Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji. And there's a reason for that. It's the center of Punjab historically, before partition especially, and it's a very important city. Here is Amritsar, a city developed by 3 gurus with 5 sarovars, and it is a city that is developed by Guru Ramdas Ji, Guru Arjan Sahib Ji, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji in a very careful, well thought out manner. And everything the Gurus do, it's so incredible, it's so rich with meaning, so rich and powerful with almost a mythic status that you can read into and learn so much from. That here's Darbar Sahib, the court of the divine, with a sarovar made by Guru Ramdas, a Harmandir Sahib made by Guru Arjan, and a Akal Takht made by Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji, and they all work together. And so this capital that Guru Arjan Sahib Ji and Guru Ramdas Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji developed is a very important institution for us, a very important city, and it is where the Panth naturally gravitated in the post-Banda Singh Bahadur period to recreate a sovereign Sikh Panth. So Amritsar and the Akal Takht, Takht Kot Sahib or Akal Bunga Sahib and Anandpur Sahib, those were important Takhts, but really the heart of the Panth, the heart of the Sikh community, of the Sikh Qawm, has always been Amritsar Sahib since the time of Guru Ramdas Ji. This very well developed and well thought out and immensely, beautifully, metaphorically rich place. I won't go into it too much because that's a whole other topic, the importance of Amritsar. I want to go on to the idea of the Khalsa. What does it mean that the Khalsa is sovereign? Where does the idea of the Sarbat Khalsa come from? And it's sort of after this that we will then be going into Amrita Kaur's presentation, but we're going to be looking at the Khalsa and the Panj Pyare next. So just as Guru Angad Sahib Ji sat there with young children, teaching them the Panthi and developing Gurmukhi and giving literacy as a gift to his Sikhs at Khadur Sahib, all 10 of the Guru Sahibs very carefully and consciously guided us step by step by step. So that the revolution of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji was not an overnight revolution, which we can see overnight revolutions are disastrous generally. Huge, large social and political change causes damage to regular people on the ground. We can see that in Libya, we can see that in Egypt just in the last decade, last 5 years. We can see that historically in China and Russia and other places, that when you have this sort of dramatic revolution where one group is swept out of power, another group is brought into power, it's a disaster for normal people. With Guru Nanak Sahib Ji and the love that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had for people, he wanted to develop a people not in an overnight fashion, but very carefully and slowly to let us grow in all ways. And so the Sangat was given responsibility at an early level by Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, who set up Dharmsala wherever he traveled, so that if he went to Ahmedabad, he made by Lalo the head of the Dharmsala there, or he made by Sajjan the head of the Dharmsala where he was. And so wherever Guru Nanak Sahib Ji traveled, he left 6 in charge of the communities there. And that was then further developed by Guru Amar Das Sahib Ji into this really amazing institution of the Manji system. And we also see with the Manji system that the Guru's very dramatic and symbolically rich sense of like we are a sovereign state separate from the powers that be. So when the Takht at Lal Qilla of the Mughals is 9 feet tall, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji makes a 12-foot tall Takht. If the Mughal Empire split up into 22 provinces, Guru Amar Das Sahib Ji splits his Panth into 22 Manjis as well, just to show that we are an alternate or actually true source of political sovereignty within this world. And Guru Amar Das Ji also introduces this concept that has come down to us today, this Sikh tradition, Guru Vi Bisve Ate Sangat Ikki Bisve. That the Guru is 20 parts, the Sangat is 21 parts, meaning that while the Guru is perfect, 20 parts being Bisve being a division of land in farms in Punjab, so 20 would be a complete unit, the Sangat is actually has authority to some degree over the Guru. So that idea of the Panj having authority over Guru Gobind Singh Ji, or today the Panth, was actually developed very early on in the Sikh tradition. Here we have a beautiful quote by Professor Puri Singh, and this is a key idea here. The sovereignty that Guru Gobind Singh Ji blessed to the Panth was not something that he created, or was not something that was given to him simply by Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji, but the sovereignty that was transferred to the Panth was actually something that was invested in the Guru by Akal Purkh Guru. So where does our legitimacy come from? Our legitimacy comes from Akal Purkh Guru. Why are we sovereign? Why are we free? Because Vaheguru made Guru Nanak free. Vaheguru made Guru Nanak Sache Badshah, and that is where all of our legitimacy as a Panth flows from. And here by Nandalji's Ganjnama, Nandalji has actually gone through this and tried to describe this mystical conversation, which of course wasn't a physical conversation, and how it actually happened, what it actually looked like is beyond our comprehension. But Guru Nanak said he had this mystical experience at Sultanpur Lodi. And in that mystical experience, he was given the authority of the Guru. He was given sovereignty by Akal Purkh Guru. And it is from that we are given sovereignty. That sovereignty was transferred to Guru Angad Sahib Ji, which was then transferred by Guru Angad Sahib Ji to Guru Amar Das, and so on, till finally Guru Gobind Singh Ji had it transferred to the Khalsa Panth in the office of the Panj Pyare. Just as Guru Gobind Singh Ji says that the Khalsa is my limb, Guru Nanak Sahib Ji transforms by Lena into Guru Angad. There's such a beauty here of a direct line, a flow from Vaheguru and Guru Nanak's mystical experience to our experience that we recreate as a Panth today when we take Amrit and join the house of Nanak. I won't go too much into this slide, but the idea here, and I touched on it earlier, is that the marks of royalty, because of the sta, a karpan, a takht, these are all things that are very political. Where do these come from? Well, they come from Vaheguru. That's what Bani tells us. And Bani tells us that it was Guru Nanak who started this Raj, Nanak Raj Chalaya. He's the one who built the foundation stone of the Takht, Sach Kort Satani Neev De. It was Guru Nanak who gave Amrit to Guru Angad, this mystical Amrit that Guru Gobind Singh then made physical. It was Guru Nanak Sahib who gave a sword of divine wisdom to Guru Angad Sahib, which then became the very real Karpan that Guru Hargobind Sahib blessed us with. And so, even the concept of the Panj Pyare is not something that was created in 1699, but here we have by Gurdas Ji writing at the time of Guru Ramdas Ji, Guru Arjan, and Guru Hargobind Sahib, he's talking about the Panj not just being special, but in fact being equivalent to Vaheguru. That's how much power Gurdas Ji is investing in the concept of 5-6. That Panji Parmesar, he uses the word Parmeshwar twice to refer to the Panj. That in fact, when 5-6 gather, they have a divinity within them. They have that divinity of Guru Nanak. And we can see that the Panj were not just during the Guru Gobind Singh's time, but we have the Panj when Guru Arjan Sahib Ji went to Lahore for Shahidi, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji went to Delhi to give up himself for Shahidi, and when Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji created the first Sikh army, he in fact first had 5 generals as well. We also have 3 instances in the post-1699 period where Guru Gobind Singh Ji was ordered by the Panj. And these 3 instances do not show any mistake or imperfections in Guru Gobind Singh Ji at all. In fact, what these are instead are Guru Gobind Singh Ji creating learning opportunities for the Panth so that we would be able to fully take on our duties and responsibilities. And I want to quickly talk about Baba Bandha Singh Bahadur because his institution, his sovereign state is important. It's not his sovereign state, and that's what we need to start changing, because when he was blessed with these 5 arrows and Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Hukam, which was the sign of his authority, he was actually also given 5 Gursikhs as Panj Pyare. And it was the 5 Gursikhs who were actually the authority of the Khalsa Raj state of Bandha Singh Bahadur. All decisions flowed through them. The leader of the 5 was Baba Binod Singh. So even the seal of the Khalsa Panth, which we see on the left here, the rule of law in Bandha Singh Bahadur's governance structure was not invested in him, but invested in the office of Guru Nanak, Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So we today have a dual Guru. The Khalsa needs the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, because without Guru Granth Sahib Ji, we are completely lost. Guru Granth Sahib Ji is a perfect Guru, and even though the Khalsa Panth is a Guru as well, it can never attain the level of perfection of the divine and perfect Guru Granth Sahib Ji. But at the same time, there is an idea in Sikh philosophy that even Guru Granth Sahib Ji needs a Panth, and needs a Panth only in the sense that without Sikhs, you cannot have a Guru. So there is a relationship there between the Guru and the Panth. We need to be careful how we speak about it though, because we have to give utmost respect to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So let's end off now by looking at the idea of the Sarbat Khalsa. What's the foundation of the Sarbat Khalsa and where is it coming from? So the Sarbat Khalsa, we can see here a very basic definition. It is the highest institution besides Guru Granth Sahib Ji and the Panth. It is an integrated consciousness of the Panth, meaning that when the Sarbat Khalsa meets, it is the actual mind of the Khalsa Panth in a sense. And it has the power to direct the affairs of the Panth. And it is the Gurmat-based legislative democracy. So like I said earlier, you have the British-style democracy, you have what we call Westminster style, which we use here in Canada or in Australia, even India and Pakistan follow that model. Then you have the American Republican style, you have the French style, there's other styles, there's the ancient Greek city-states, which were also a type of democracy in a way. But then we have this very unique institution that the Gurus created. It's a Gurmat-based legislative democracy that runs very differently. And just because it's different does not make it less valid. We've just become used to these models, and we think this is a way that a democracy has to look. But the Gurus say, no, there are other ways to give rule to the people. Instead of having votes and elections, you can have consensus. Instead of having people arguing with each other in a chamber to decide how laws should be written, you can have like-minded individuals coming together with mutual respect, kindness, and love in the presence of Guru Granth Sahib Ji and figure out and work out together, hey, how are we going to move the Panth forward? It's a much more difficult process in some ways, but it's a much more beautiful process in a lot of other ways, and one that speaks to the essential qualities that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji was trying to instill within his Sikhs. So how is the Sarbat Khalsa done? Well, first of all, you have small groups. In the historical time period, these were jathas and later missals. These were small Sangats at first, of roving bands of Sikhs that would live together and fight together, and would free people, and would attack the Mughal or Afghani or Persian empires that were occupying or invading Punjab. Each of those jathas would choose a leader. How would they choose a leader? Well, they wouldn't choose who was most popular, who was most wealthy. They would choose, for example, the person who did beautiful kirtan, like Jassa Singh Ahluwalia, who learned how to do kirtan from Mata Jeet Kaur and Mata Sahib Kaur. They would choose people who were experts on Bani, like Baba Deep Singh. They would choose people who were really good at doing seva, like by Gror Singh, of the Gror Singhya missal. So those were the types of people that were being chosen for leadership. Those leaders would then come together at Akal Takht Sahib usually, but not always. If Akal Takht was not in Panth control, then it's not that they said, oh no, we can't meet, we can't decide what to do with our community. They would meet where they were. They would meet in the jungle, they would meet somewhere else. They would then come to a decision in the presence of the Guru. This decision would be called a mata. This mata would then be presented to the Sangat that was gathered outside, which we are calling the Jor Mela of the Sangat, a tradition started by Guru Amar Das Ji. This Jor Mela would then either approve or critique the mata. If it was approved, the Sangat would give Jaikare, and the mata would become a Gurmata. Once the mata became a Gurmata, then it was the law of the Guru. And if you went against a Gurmata, you were considered a Dankaya. And people took this very seriously during that time, because they had a real faith and belief that what the Sarbat Khalsa decided was actually the words from the mouth of Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji himself. This was not taken lightly, not by the Sangat in attendance outside the deliberations, not by the leaders inside who were deliberating, or the representatives, we can call them. Everybody took this very seriously, but from a loving, kind, Jardikla place of mind. What was the mandate of the Sarbat Khalsa? Well, they didn't talk about how long Rera should be. They didn't talk about how long Gashera should be. They didn't talk about what color the stars we should wear. They didn't talk about how you should get up in the morning, how you should take a bath, or all those other things that we have now become obsessed with as a community. They were major issues impacting the Panth. We have to go and save this group. We have to go and fight here. We have to go and do this. They were action-oriented, clear goals for the Panth to get things done. And it is when we are getting things done, when we are working outwards, when we are being proactive, when we are serving others, so that even when we're in jungles, even when we don't have food or proper clothing, we are still day in and day out as a Panth going out there and putting our lives on the line for young women who are being taken as slaves to Afghanistan. We are freeing villages from imperial control. We are taking money from the government and distributing it to the poor. We're giving land back to indentured slaves on the land. We are serving others, even when we are in a place of oppressiveness. That is the beauty of the Khalsa Panth. And when we are working like that, then all those issues that we fight about today, they become unimportant. The only reason we have time now to argue about those doctrinal issues is because we're not actually doing anything. We're not fulfilling the role of the Khalsa Panth as envisioned by Guru Nanak Sahib Ji. So I think what we'll do here, I had a section here to perhaps go over the Sarbat Khalsas of the 20th century, 1920 when SGPC was made, and 1986. But I think we will now switch it over to Amrita Kaur at this time.